Good evening, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode here at Wildman Lifts. I'm your host, Wildman. On today's episode, I have a special treat for you. I'm here with my buddy Frank, and we're going to discuss the carnivore diet. Now, since I don't know anything about the carnivore diet, I thought I'd bring in an expert who not only has done a lot of research about this subject, but has also lived it and has a practicality of how it should work. Good evening, Frank.
Good evening, buddy.
So you've been on the carnivore diet for how long?
Year and a half, 2 years.
Okay. Now, tell my viewers, what is the carnivore diet? What's that about?
The carnivore diet at the most basic level is focusing on eating fatty red meat and salt. And that's it. You eat 1 to 3 meals a day. Some people can eat, enough calories with one meal. I think a lot of people really can, but 1 to 3 meals a day is usually the target. It's just you're going to get away from snacking, and eating this way makes you really satiated. But that's the most basic carnivore diet level. They actually term that. There's a coined term for that is the lion diet. If you wanted to look that up.
Okay, so it's called the carnivore diet, and then I think we've had a discussion about this. There was a discussion about the lion's diet and other subcategories of carnivore diet.
Yes.
Okay, so you said to get away from snacking. So how many meals, if somebody's getting ready to start the carnivore diet, how many meals should they plan on eating a day?
If you're going to start the carnivore diet, start with 3 meals a day. Keep it simple. Ease yourself into it. It takes a little bit for your body to adjust to the carnivore diet. Your stomach is, my understanding of it is your stomach acidity actually increases because if you're eating a bunch of easily processed foods, easily digestible foods such as processed foods, your body doesn't have to work that hard, so it's not going to work that hard. Okay. So you'll start, let's say, eating eggs for breakfast for a few days, maybe a week, right? The next week, let's just go by weeks. The next week, you'll eat eggs for breakfast and then a half a pound to a pound of beef for lunch. Okay. Whatever you want for dinner. Then the third week, you try to do, eggs and beef. That's a
mixture.
Yeah, or you could just do just beef. Let's say if you're trying to keep it simple, beef and salt. And it's going to be about probably 1 to 2.5 teaspoons of salt a day. You'll figure it out. You'll figure out how much you do and don't like and how you feel on it. And you focus on that for probably, let's say, 30 days. You'll go through the first 2 weeks is the biggest transition period. I certainly felt the difference after about the 30 to 40 day mark as well. And that was, I started feeling like I could eat the food. I started craving the food more. It started tasting better. My taste buds started to change. I started to feel stronger, faster, more energetic, more mental clarity. So you'll notice these changes at various stages. The hardest part is definitely the first 2 weeks. And I think the second biggest marker is about the 30 to 40 days.
Okay. Now, it's a very popular diet. Everybody out there I know is researching it. It's taken off. Everybody's really wanting to try it out. Some know where to start. Some don't know where to start, right? So how did it become so popular? What got people into, I guess, who created the carnivore diet? And then how did it gain so much popularity?
From what I can recall, Dr. Shawn Baker brought up the carnivore diet on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Okay.
So Dr. Shawn Baker is this, I don't know if he's retired or currently practicing, but I can't remember now, but he was an orthopedic surgeon. Big, muscular, fit man, charismatic. He's on the show. He talks about the carnivore diet, coins the term. Since then, a lot of other people have joined in and they kind of coin different terms such as, well, there's the carnivore diet, but then there's a lion diet. There's this and there's that, blah, blah, blah. But that's where I believe it started. And it really took off in popularity with him, and I really think Dr. Paul Saladino made a big impact as well. I believe he coins his style more animal-based, which would be you're focusing more on the fatty meats, such as fatty red meat, but he really encourages his viewers to consume animal organs, like liver, because of all the different nutrients in them, and fruit and honey. He's a big proponent for not needing to stay into ketosis. If you want to go into it, that's fine, especially for medical reasons or psychological reasons. And he clarifies that. However, he says for longevity purposes, he thinks it's important to kind of go in and out of ketosis. So he really encourages easily digestible carbohydrates, straight from nature, not processed in any way, such as primarily would be coming from fruit.
Okay. Now, somebody who is exercising in conjunction with the carnivore diet, So basically, like some people just go to commercial gyms and they will just do like the bro science kind of workouts where they're like 3 sets of 10 on bench, squat, deadlift, whatever it is, and they use machines, whatever. That'd be like your probably average male gym goer. Then there's people like myself who train strongman. There's people that train powerlifting. That the stigma is if you're going to be training for these more heavier lifts, you got to eat more than just meat. Like you have to have carbs, you have to have starches, your fruits and veggies. You got to have everything, and you have to have a full balance, right? That's basically on the food pyramid. But you also have to eat like more than the average human. So somebody who is going to be on the carnivore diet, who is, I guess let's start with like the average gym goer. How would it work with the average gym goer? Any side effects or anything like that? Is it sustainable? And how long can you be on the carnivore diet if you're just going to the gym casually? And then for somebody who's actually training for strength sports, would anything need to change? And would that be sustainable for strength sport athletes?
So for the casual gym goer, which I generally am, right? I'm generally consistently exercising 3 to 5 days a week, depends on the training period. And the style that I train varies. I might be in the gym for just 20 to 30 minutes a day. Or when I was training with you, we were doing strength training, and I did that for about 5 or 6 months, and we were hitting it 5 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week, and we were hitting it hard every day. Right now, I generally do 2 a days. I'll train 6 days a week, and I'll do jiu-jitsu 2-3 days a week as well. And so from my experience, as even though my intensity level does fluctuate, as a casual gym goer is how I see myself, the carnivore diet is just fine. If you're just eating meat, you're going to be just fine. Now, I do believe there was about a 3-month transition period where, because I record my strength and I record how well I do in the gym. So like I said earlier, 2 weeks is going to be about the roughest. 30, 40 days, you can find another marker point. But when it comes to like your energy, your maximum output in the gym, your strength gains, everything else, I think there's about the 3 to 4 month period before everything kind of balanced back out. And then I felt even better in the gym, personally. Maybe it's my specific training style, but I felt even better. Strength was going up, body fat was going down, feeling good, recovering pretty quickly. Inflammation, one of the reasons why the recovery was so fast is I noticed eating this whole food diet, eating healthy, unprocessed foods, and not really overeating as well. I'm sure that helps with the recovery. Is my inflammation went down, my back pain went down, my joint pain went down. I was able to better identify, is this an injury or is this a soreness or what this is, because I'm just not in pain all the time now. So to answer it, to sum it up, casual, you'll be just fine with just meat. Now, if you're a really intense athlete training for a tournament, I don't know, because I don't do that. Okay, I follow a lot of guys that train pretty intensely, and what they say varies. Now I can't say that any of them are world level athletes. Actually, I think, unfortunately, I didn't look this up for the interview. I think George St. Pierre was on carnivore for a little while he was in the UFC. I know he went on it. I am 90% sure he went on it to fix his stomach issues, and I believe he was still on it while he did at least some of his competitions in the UFC.
He's a world record guy.
Right, he's a world record guy. You guys can definitely look into George St. Pierre to see if that's correct. But from what I've heard from following some guys online, is they have a similar 3 to 4 month period. They train very intensely in whatever their sport is, even though they're not world renowned, and they found that their strength gains and recovery speeds increased.
Okay.
Now for you, because let's say you were going to jump on it, buddy, I would say, hey, eat the whole meats, right? Focus on the red meats. Make sure you're hitting because you would probably, if you're going to do this diet, I feel like you'd want to go maximum effort, actually track your macros a little bit.
Yeah, I take it seriously.
You take it seriously. Yeah. So I would say you're a big boy. You lift big. You're very strong. I say start with like 30. Once your body transitions, start with like 3,500 calories a day. Always hit your protein count. Always hit the protein count. Always make sure you're eating salt, because that's your electrolytes. You need those. And then everything else, fill in the gaps depending on how you feel. You'll kind of fluctuate. It's like, like with my body, I know that I need about 200 grams of fat. I'm not going to feel quite right. But for you, it's like you would play with the grams of fat, and then maybe you want some carbs. Maybe you're like, you know what, I miss having carbs and I feel great with them. That's you. Your blood work's coming back. You're feeling strong in the gym. Have like 3 apples. Just throwing that out because apples are 30 grams of carbs, I believe. So that's 90 grams of carbs right there, and then maybe a couple tablespoons of honey. So now you're 100 and something grams of carbs. But if you're feeling great and you're functioning well, and your primary food source is the whole meats, you're getting tons of nutrients. You get, in a pound of meat, last I heard was 2.5 grams of creatine. So if you could easily eat 2 pounds of red meat, you're getting your 5 grams of creatine, which is recommended by everybody, right? But from an all-natural source. So my belief, it's going to process better, get it straight from an animal. And then you're getting the rest of your fuel from just the fats and maybe some fruits that you just enjoy eating.
Okay. Now, when you were training with me, and I will attest to this, you were training a lot more strength and a lot more volume at the time, but you were still like beginner novice level when I started with you. I think we touched just a brief moment into intermediate, right? And you were on the carnivore diet that entire time. And for what I recall, your gains were still going up. You were still progressing as naturally as any other athlete I would train, right? Because beginners and novices, when you typically start to train them the right way of how to lift and how to do the movements properly, it's usually about a 20-pound gain in strength in the compound movements every 6 weeks, right? Which is what you were experiencing. And you were on the carnivore diet. So you'd be basically a case study. I was doing a case study of trying to program correctly, and you were doing a case study of, like, incidentally, of whether or not the carnivore diet was sustainable during that time period. Now, will there ever need to be a time, because I think we've talked about this, about cheat meals. Does the diet have a time for cheat meals? Is it necessary? What would be the case with that?
Personal preference. That's it. That is just personal preference. There's quite a few people that I follow that don't do cheat meals at all. And now that could be for a variety of reasons. The two primary ones are, such as if you look at the Peterson family, which is the famous philosopher Jordan Peterson and his daughter Kayla Peterson. They have a lot of I believe that this is the correct word for it, autoimmune issues. Like his daughter's had some version of arthritis since she was 3 years old. And depression. They were on antidepressants for a long time, anxiety meds, things of that nature, and they have come out. And one part of the reason why I was convinced to try it out is, listen to a lot of sources, but they were certainly one of them listening to their source, their story, which was they said if they're on the Lion diet now, they have to be that strict. I don't. I can eat quite a few things, but they have to eat only red meat and salt, and they can be off their antidepressants. She doesn't have to worry about arthritis. She does, everything goes away. So there's the I can't cheat because I have illness camp. It's also very good from what I hear, and these are people, and these are also from scientists that are not carnivores. They're just cancer specialists because they'll come onto the different podcasts to listen to. It's also good for fighting things off like cancer because supposedly cancer cells feed off of sugar. So you definitely want to fight to be in ketosis if you're pushing through something like that, from what I hear. Now the other camp is addicts. I kind of fall into that area. I cheat, and then it takes me 2 weeks to get back off to get back out of that. Now I might not be cheating every day, but it takes me 2 weeks of working through my cravings and stuff, right? And there's some people that they know if I have even one thing, I'm done for who knows how long. And so they stay strict because they know if they don't, then they can't.
They'll fall off the wagon.
They fall off the wagon. Yeah. But I think a lot of people really will usually have cheat meals just dependent upon what they can handle. Some people it's once a week, some people it's twice a week, some people it's once a month, some people they just have special occasions throughout the year. It also depends on your training goals, right? Some people if you're training for a bodybuilding competition, you're going to be strict on your macros, and then you're going to wait until afterwards, type of thing.
Yeah.
So what are your goals? But the two primary things: did it help you with any of your illnesses or issues such as me? I have back pain and joint pain and stuff. If I start cheating, I know my inflammation is going to go up, affects my lifting, or addiction, which I also know will throw people off for a while.
Yeah, very true. Well, is there anything else you want to add before we sign off?
A couple of good resources to look at. Actually, I'll give 3, depending upon your style, which would be Dr. Ken Berry. I think he's the primary one. I do like following him. I like the message that he puts out. He has a 60 or 90-day challenge on there that's called Beef, Butter, Bacon, and Eggs. And he's a currently practicing, and I want to say family physician. So that, it gives a little bit of comfort in following him, knowing that he's very informational. He has a lot of videos. You can look up like, what does cholesterol mean, or I have this disease, or blah 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 blah. He has a lot of videos on there. I think another one is Dr. Cywes, Cywes, similar thing, lots of informational videos. And then the third one would be Dr. Paul Saladino. And the reason why I add him in is, one, because he's very articulate, and he's also on the other side of the spectrum. Those other two guys that I mentioned, they're more, from my perspective, they're pretty strict carnivore. Dr. Paul Saladino, he's animal based. He talks about the importance of eating organs, fruit, honey. If you really want a starchy carbohydrate and you can handle it without overeating, he's like, okay, well, just from what I can recall him saying, it's like, okay, well, maybe like white rice or some potatoes, they're not processed, right? So he's a little bit more on the in-between side, but he has very good arguments, and you can look up debates between him and Dr. Ken Berry as to why he believes it's the best. And he's put his blood work up on the show plenty of times. So
Okay.
3 sources: Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Cywes, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, and Dr. Paul Saladino.
All right, and I'll be sure to put down those 3 names in the description so people can look it up and research it for themselves. I really appreciate you taking the time to discuss this. Hopefully everybody out there has learned something new. I certainly have. If you're interested in learning more about the carnivore diet or any of these other subcategories that we've talked about tonight, feel free to do your own research. Feel free to comment or send me a direct message on Instagram if you want to know more, and I'll be happy to reach out to my friend Frank, who should be able to answer the question, because when I don't know an answer to a question, I go to Frank. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.